All right, hello and welcome back. In this video, we're talking about mobile device management with Microsoft Intune. At the end of this video, you should be able to know what Microsoft Intune is, know what a mobile device manager is and what it does. Same thing with the mobile app manager. We're going to talk about management profiles and how that fits into everything with Microsoft Intune, okay? So let's start with the example. All right, we got a hospital, and in this case, it's the Cleveland Clinic, and it can be any business. It could be Microsoft itself, it could be Apple, it could be Franciscan something. Okay, so we have a hospital, and this hospital has its employees. It has Ray, it has Jim, it has Lanny. All right, and this hospital says, you know what? We have some apps that these employees use personally by themselves, but we really want them. We really want to control exactly what's on, what apps we allow them to use or not use. Okay, for our company, just for our purposes. So, for example, Ray and Jim may be nurses and they already have Microsoft Teams, but Cleveland Clinic wants to be able to control exactly, all that data that comes in with Microsoft Teams or all that data that comes in with Excel on their mobile devices. Okay, it doesn't want to control, their chats, or it doesn't want to control their personal apps or their photos or anything, but it does want to control um, Teams or anything that's related to the job. Okay, so for example, and there's a really good reason to do that, and the reason is because if Ray has Teams on his phone, okay, and he's chatting with patients on his phone through chat, okay, if Ray leaves the company, even though Ray doesn't have an email with Cleveland Clinic anymore, he still technically could have data on his phone that's on Teams. That could be stolen or that could be leaked or something like that. Okay, so Cleveland Clinic, although Ray uses Teams on his phone, it's not directly controlled by Cleveland Clinic, which becomes a big liability. It's liability city. Okay, and it's not only with Teams, it could be with Epic, it could be with Workday, it could be with Excel. So that's the whole issue here. Cleveland Clinic wants to be able to control the data or the apps that each person is able to use for the job. Okay, not for life and not for vacation or whatever. They just want to be able to control that data that's related to Cleveland Clinic's business. Okay, and they have a right to. It's technically their work or their data, right? Because it's related to your job. So you sign up for that, right? So how do they do this? That's the big question. How does Cleveland Clinic? How can they allow access to people to download uh, Cleveland Clinic's Teams or Cleveland Clinic's Excel or Cleveland Clinic's Workday apps? How does it do that? Well, it does that through Microsoft Intune, as you can probably guess. All right. And what Microsoft Intune is a device manager, okay, a mobile device manager for Cleveland Clinic, and it's also a mobile app manager for Cleveland Clinic. Okay, so it's kind of like a middleman. All right. So, what is a mobile device manager? Well, it's Microsoft Intune, right? So let's say you have Ed, Ray, and Jim, and Lanny. Okay, Cleveland Clinic can use Microsoft Intune to say, you know what? Um, all these people are able to access our app store. Okay, but yesterday Ed was working for us, but today he's not. So bye bye, Ed. So all of Ed's data, okay, that is related to Cleveland Clinic's app store. So, for example, if Ed downloaded Teams from the Cleveland Clinic app store, right? Let's go back one. So Ed had access to Cleveland Clinic's app store. He could download Teams. When Ed downloads Teams through Cleveland Clinic's app store and does all his calls and chats, all of that stays with Cleveland Clinic. All right. So when Ed goes away, he goes on to a different job. Okay, that Teams app and all the data within that Teams app from Cleveland Clinic's app store gets sent back to Cleveland Clinic, and Ed doesn't have any of that information anymore. He doesn't have any of those chats with those patients or those call logs or whatever. Okay, same with Epic, same with Excel. He doesn't have any more of that information. All right, so that's pretty much what we're saying here. A device manager manages which device has access and is concurrent with Cleveland Clinic's app store. Okay, and it can do the same with anybody. So let's say Lanny gets fired, all of that data gets taken away. All right, so that is the device manager. It manages which devices are allowed to talk to Cleveland Clinic. Mobile app manager is basically the same thing, but with apps. So Cleveland Clinic can say, all right, I want these apps to be on the App Store, or I don't want these apps to be on the App Store for people to access. Okay, so it just manages what apps are on the App Store. And Microsoft Intune does this. It's a mobile app manager as well, right? So Cleveland Clinic can tell Microsoft Intune, these people get these apps, these people don't get these apps, or everybody gets these apps, or nobody gets these apps. Okay, and we'll show an example. All right, so we have our people here, and they kind of have, you can think of them as having their own, version of their own app store. So Ed has his mobile device with his app store, and Ray has his with his app store, and Laney has his with his app store, and they all have the same apps. All right, that's one way they can do this, but they can also manage it even smaller, to where maybe Ed is a manager and he gets access to all three apps, but Ray is a facilities guy, and so Ray only gets Workday because he never uses Teams. He always uses the radio, and he never uses Excel because he's always working with his hands, right? Lanny, maybe he's a contractor. He doesn't need Workday, so he just needs Teams and Excel. So that's exactly what a mobile app manager does. It manages the apps for the whole app store and for the individual devices or the individual people. Okay. So with all that in mind, Microsoft Intune is a device manager and an app manager. How does it communicate with that phone? Well, obviously through the internet, but how can it just take all that data from that phone, or give access to the App Store through that phone? And it does this mainly through a management profile. So whenever you download Microsoft Intune onto your phone, if your company has Microsoft Intune, the app in the phone will immediately prompt you to download a management profile. And that management profile is what's needed to communicate with Microsoft Intune and allow Cleveland Clinic to make changes to its app store and to your mobile device. It sounds scary, but they're only managing the apps and the data that Cleveland Clinic owns that are on your phone. Okay, so they're not managing Google Maps, and they're not managing, unless they get Google Maps on their app store, and you download Google Maps from Cleveland Clinic's app store, then they could manage it. But they're not managing apps that you download from Google's Play Store or from the Apple App Store. They're only managing apps from their Microsoft Intune. Okay. So you get this management profile onto your phone, and that's what communicates your phone, or that's what connects your phone with Microsoft Intune. Okay. So this is the full picture. This is exactly what it looks like. Cleveland Clinic has Microsoft Intune, all right, to manage what devices are able to access its app store and what apps are available to the different people in its company. And it talks to them through these management profiles. So these management profiles allow Cleveland Clinic to make these changes in the app or for the device itself. Okay, so that is exactly everything we covered in the video. So you should know what Microsoft Intune is. All right, it's a mobile device manager which manages which devices the Cleveland Clinic can talk to. It's a mobile app manager which allows Cleveland Clinic to decide who gets what apps. Okay, we talked about management profile and how Microsoft Intune talks to management profiles, and that's pretty much it. That wraps up the whole video. So again, my name is Ryan Anglin, and I work for Vision Data Communication Services, and I'll see you in the next one.